Hello, this is the Growth League podcast. My name is Caleb Clark, and my mission for this show is pretty simple. It's to learn from marketers on how they're playing the great game of marketing leadership, their ideas, experiences, perspective, wins and losses, and the playbook that they've established over time. Listen, there's more than one way to lead a marketing team and a marketing function. So if you're a VP, a CMO, director, or someone aspiring to fill one of these marketing leadership roles in the future, tune in to learn from some of the best in the business. Uncertainty.
Look, uncertainty is always going to be there, right? I often like to think about, I would often tell this to teams, that organization and perseverance trumps flamboyance, right? So you can get the biggest flamboyant campaign, and it's going to be awesome. It might actually get you a lot of leads, a lot of sales. But the person that's been just gradually doing things one little step at a time and solving things eventually is going to end up ahead of you.
Today, my guest is Pedro Matriciano. He is the Growth Marketing Director, Demand Generation at Book Club. Pedro, great to have you on the show. Welcome, man.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to throw at me.
Awesome. Well, the show is all about, sharing your experience and your perspective on playing the great game of marketing leadership. It's a way to add value to other marketing leaders that are just trying to figure this thing out. There's challenges that all of us as marketing leaders are faced with as it relates to capacity and expertise constraint, about finding the right disciplines and the right format to level into our mix, and dealing with external stakeholders in certain cases that have varying understanding of marketing. But what I'd like to start with is, Pedro, just give us a bit of a Coles Notes summary of your journey as a marketer and as a marketing leader. What brought you to where you are today?
Well, I've been in marketing for 18 years. When I started marketing, all the roles I've worked on didn't even exist. Like, I used to say that we used to put on a cowboy hat just to log on to the internet, because it was complete cowboy world. I've worked in things like, SEO expert, and now that seems really, really common. That role didn't exist. No company would hire an SEO expert. You walk into a company that they had the traditional marketing, and these bozos who apparently did some sort of online thing, which I've actually heard people say, this is a temporary thing.
Yeah.
I've heard people say that about SEO back in the day.
Yeah.
And I worked everywhere. I've worked for Brazil. I've worked in Australia. Now I'm working for American companies. I've worked in oil and gas, mortgages. I've gone through a lot of different things. 18 years is quite a journey, being self-employed, being employed by others. And yeah, I found my way into ed tech. I'm really a big consumer of education. Like I've always signed up to something. I be it like, a learning app or courses. I'm always learning. So ed tech was kind of a natural inclination for me, because I'm a consumer and a marketer for it. And it's really easy when you're in that spot. And I found my way into ed tech, in like B2B ed tech. And yeah, and somehow I ended up at Book Club, and I'm really happy I did. I'm really happy where I am. I think we're poised for great things. It's always challenging. We're a startup. There's a lot of changes all the time, and there's a lot of uncertainty at moments. But I believe in the company. I believe in the product. I believe in the team, and those things, I think, are the most important things to have when you're working with a company.
Totally.
You gotta believe in it. Yeah,
totally.
Especially in
It'd
startup.
be very hard to log in every day if you weren't bound by the mission or what you're trying to accomplish. So that's great. Tough question for you right off the bat. What are your top 2 or 3 biggest challenges right now that you're facing currently as a marketing leader?
Well, my marketing challenges aren't really in marketing right now.
Okay.
My marketing challenges are in sales and product, because the product changed, right? We used to be a B2C company. Now we're a B2B company. I was hired right when we made that change. So the product team, they're doing a great job, but they're still redoing the product. I need more product launches. I need more product features to be able to do great marketing. I believe people nowadays, like, content, I always say, I think content is not king anymore. Being able to get in a product and use a product, that's becoming king. You don't buy stuff you can't use, right? It's become like buying shoes. You don't go to a store and you don't buy a shoe you can't try on. You don't buy a software you can't try on. And I'm a software buyer. I use what, like 10, 15 different tools. If
Yeah.
I don't try them, I don't buy them. That's a
Right.
rule. That's a rule for any customer. So my big problem is sales, is product. And the second is sales. We just reorganized our sales team. So the sales leader I used to work a lot with, he's not in the company. So like I'm having a challenge now, like kind of what do we do? Do we go for sales-led growth? When do we swap to product-led growth? Like
Right.
there's a lot of questions.
Interesting.
Marketing, curiously enough, we're doing pretty well. Like
Yeah. So what do you do with all that sort of in progress status of the product and of the sales function, the system? Like, what do you do when you don't have that true North Star established? What do you do on a day to day with your team?
we do have a North Star. The problem is, you kind of, let's put it this way, you have to know where to send the pipeline, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
now I'm just really working a lot. Like my job for the next few probably months is going to be really working with sales enablement,
Right.
working with the SDRs, working with people that are doing sales, and really get that part right. We got to make sure, once the pipeline goes, where does it go?
Right.
Like we get the leads, where does it go? Which if a lead is quality A, where does it go? If a lead is quality B, where does it go? So we got to really, really filter, be able to organize ourselves because we can't be spending people's time on the wrong type of lead.
Right.
So it's hard. It's hard because like I don't actually know when we're going to shift gears in certain areas of the business. We do have a plan, but startups plans change all the time.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, right now that's my challenge is sales and marketing. And I don't have an answer for you because I was having a meeting this morning trying to sort out where are my leads going to go and what's the sales process going to be like from now on.
Right.
Like this is a
So,
thing we're
so
flying, we're building the plane.
in this scenario, whether it be with book club or in experiences in the past, what approach have you taken when you are in a leadership role and there's other people working with you when you need to help establish priority and direction in an ever-changing environment? How do you play that role of leader and mobilizing the team to go in a certain direction when there's so much uncertainty?
Look, uncertainty is always going to be there,
Hmm.
right? I often like to think about, I would often tell this to teams that organization and perseverance trumps flamboyance, right? So you
Tell
can
me
get the
more.
biggest, you can get the biggest flamboyant campaign, and it's going to be awesome. It might actually get you a lot of leads, a lot of sales. But the person that's been just gradually doing things one little step at a time and solving things eventually is going to end up ahead of you,
Hmm.
right? So the main thing is you want to organize yourself a lot. What are the tasks you have? What, like, where are you going? Let's start with where you're going. What do you need to get there? What are the steps, right? And let's just prioritize them. Which step do I have to take to get to the next step?
Hmm.
Just organize them. I'm the type of person that, I have a big Notion board with everything on there,
Yeah.
but we know that things can change.
Right.
Open that thing weekly and say, what's priority now? What is this getting us to where we got to go, or can we wait on this?
Right.
For instance, SEO is not a priority for us right now. Like I was born and bred in SEO, and I just decided like this is not going to be a priority for us.
Hmm.
Just we don't have the resources right now, and that's not how we're going to get to the next step. It's going to be a priority for us eventually, but we
Yeah.
gotta choose where we're going to put our focus. You
Right.
know,
And that's,
um,
you bring up a good point there. Like all of us to some degree as marketing leaders have some constraint from a resource side, but whether that be money or people or both. And so you have the terminal end where you're trying to go, you have where you're starting, and the game becomes what steps are critical in what order given the resource constraint we have. Is that the game? I mean, am I oversimplifying it?
you're pretty much that's pretty much the game, right? And how do you use those resources? When I was hired, my CEO, he said he hired me because I said, I'm used to working in small companies. So the trick is to be the marketing MacGyver. How do you get some bubble gum and like paper clips and you can create a bomb? It doesn't have to be the biggest explosive, but you got to make a blast with it. So that's what we try to do. Like
Interesting.
how do we get the smallest possible, the biggest possible result from the smallest amount of resources? And that is the game. And the game, you're just going to look, okay, I have these resources. What's the biggest bang I can do with this?
Hmm.
Okay, what is going to be my continuous bang, right? Like keep
Right.
something going. Oh, this is going to be it. It's hard. It's not easy. You rely on data, experience, and just gut feeling.
Yeah. In your scenario, and I don't want to spend too much time on book club, but in your scenario, is the constraint from a resources standpoint more money or people?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
So we have both. We have a decent budget to do a few things, but we can't do everything. And the
Right.
same happens with people.
Okay.
So there's things I'm not doing this year, which is SEO has just been left for next year. PR has been very, you know, whenever I need PR, I'll do it. But like there's has been no strategy around them.
Right.
And that's okay. That makes sense. We're doing really well on events, for
Yeah.
instance. So we committed a lot of the budget that could have gone to, establishing these more long road things to events. And it makes more sense for our scenario
Mm.
because we haven't exactly found like where we're going. So in events, we get FaceTime with customers.
Yeah.
I sometimes get the whole company down and everyone's just talking to customers, talking, and it helps us.
Right.
It's easier than doing it's easier than doing a paid survey or doing, a customer advisory board or whatever. We just have everyone there talking to customers. We come back from event like, right, we know where we got to go next.
Mm.
Like if I did that with SEO, I'm like, course correction just becomes really expensive.
Yeah.
We had that. Like, we used to rank for a ton of consumer keywords, and now
Yeah.
I look at it like, dang, can't use any of them. It's just getting
Yeah.
us the wrong leads. You
But you're
know,
okay to eliminate that frustration because you know it's not baked into the strategy at this time.
it's not in the strategy. I mean, you know,
Mm.
at the end of the day, you need something that's going the same direction as everyone else, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I want to ask you about a topic, what your thoughts are on it or experience. But the term is accountability. How do you define accountability? How do you think about it? And how do you weave it into a cross-functional organization, or at least a department, people that you're engaged with on a day-to-day?
one of book clubs, what is it, like internal principles or
Yeah,
mission or something like that, has been that accountability is love.
is
Like
love.
we're a small team, so we have to be accountable to each other. I always think of accountability is this way. Like, say we're in a relationship. Wouldn't you like to know what I'm doing before you found out, right?
Hmm.
Wouldn't you rather know that I went to my bar with my friends because I told you I was going to go to my bar with my friends,
Yeah,
rather than, you know, where were you? Like, why are you here at
yeah,
midnight? We're supposed to have dinner. Like, that's accountability for me. Just
yeah,
let people know in advance,
right.
right? What's going on. And we're a small company. I can let everyone know. Like, I don't have to hide anything from anyone.
Yeah,
So, I'll present quarterly reports, be it good, be it bad. I'll get them ready before anyone asks for them and just present them. Like, here's what happened. Everyone has to know because everyone's making strategic decisions every day based on that. So
right.
if they don't know what I'm doing, if they don't know if I'm in a bar with my friends
Yeah,
or if I'm at the gym,
yeah,
they might be, send search and rescue from me
yeah,
because they
yeah,
thought
yeah,
I
yeah.
went missing. So it's kind of like that. Just let people know in advance.
That makes sense. A topic that has come up for me a lot lately and I've been thinking about is within marketing teams, it's unfortunately very frequent where team members and departments are accountable to activities and the completion of activities instead of tying their accountability to performance oriented outcomes from a business standpoint. If you were in a situation where that was the case, you know, what experience have you had or what thoughts do you have on tying accountability to something that really matters, the business outcome, as compared to celebrating follower growth or impressions increase or activity based things?
I've been lucky that I've never been in that situation. I think I've always had good marketing leaders.
Mhm.
The reality of it kind of comes down to luck, right? Did you get a leader that understands marketing?
Right.
Like if you don't, like you're gonna have to try and convince them in every way possible what's important. And it's gonna
Mm.
be up to you to telling them what is important, what's not important. So a very underrated ability in marketing is just really simplifying, like telling people in words, like in the simplest possible form, let me
Mhm.
put it that way, complex things, because we do a lot of complicated things in marketing. And when you're young, you tend to like, well, because the CAC went up, then the LTV went down, and
Totally.
then the modality, and like, just say it in very simple words. You gotta tell people something like focus on revenue, forget the followers.
Right.
Focus on like you say really simple things, it will work, right?
Yeah. Interesting. And then
And you
repetition of that
and
story.
repetition of that. Like I had a case where I was working for a company and I keep telling them like forget about CAC when you're talking to the ad department. CAC does not exist for ads.
Yeah.
It's focus on your revenue. Who cares about CAC? What if your customer starts, paying you more? CAC doesn't matter.
Right.
CAC is not a number that you want to focus on now.
Yeah.
You're not a commodity. CAC doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Forget about it now. So you got to
Right.
kind of repeat, repeat, repeat. I even changed the name of CAC on their platform. I said, call it CPA. Forget talking about CAC.
Yeah.
This is not CAC, and this is not what you want to focus. Cost per acquisition. Forget about it. So it takes repetition, but it
Yeah.
takes luck. I've had a lot of leaders that understood marketing results, and they wanted me to get the results. And I had leaders that didn't understand, but they said, "I trust you completely. Work your magic."
Right. Right.
Um,
Are
so
you lucky in your current state where one of my thoughts earlier I was going to ask you is when you have finite resources, so you have to organize yourself and prioritize, what happens when the peanut gallery starts saying, well, we should be doing this and we should be doing this? How do you defend a strategy? Do you have experience or anything to share on quieting those voices?
there's a lot of strategies. There's a fun one I used to do in my old work, which was like this. Whenever someone said we should be doing this, I would always respond with, "That's a great idea. Here are some things you can do to get that going." They would immediately stop talking about
Yeah,
it.
totally.
Throw the work back,
That's
like
accountability, isn't it?
yeah, it's like you want me to do this, we can do this, but how about you do all of this before we get started on it?
Yeah.
And then
So
when
I'm
you
not
gave them the
saying
list,
no. I'm not
I'm
saying
not
no, but
saying
I'm
no,
illustrating what the magnitude of your ask right now.
and trying to make you understand what it entails for me. Like I'm right now, for instance, I'm the solo marketing person. So am I going to do it? Am I going to hire someone to do it? Well, like those are the questions we have to kind of cross. So why
Right.
don't you figure out what are the tasks we need to do? How much does it cost to hire someone? Once you start doing that, people will just give up on the idea immediately. It's like, oh yeah,
That's
too much
awesome.
work.
There was a question left for you from my previous guest, but before I ask it, I want to make sure it's relevant because if it's not, I'll go in a different direction. What's your relationship right now with content? Deciding what content to create, actually creating it. Does that come into your world?
It does. It does. My relationship with content is I can never get enough of it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, let me stop you there. I'm going to ask the
yeah,
question. So I think you're
yeah.
a candidate for the question. So the question from my last guest, Amy Sitnick, is how are you deciding with so much available and so much demand and so many ideas, how are you deciding your content mix? Who's involved? What's included? What's excluded? How are you deciding that the mix?
Content is kind of a bit of one of the problems I've been having because I just don't have a content team. So I'll start there.
Okay,
Let me put a caveat to everything I'm going to say,
good.
right? I try to decide content, and when I say I'm trying, because like content has some trial and error, right? So it takes a bit for you to get a feel for your audience and what content they respond to. I've
Hmm.
been working with EdTech. I kind of know which content they respond to, but even then, sometimes I get it wrong. The other problem is you have too much content out there. So, what sort of content do you want? As I said before, I think content isn't king anymore. Using your product is king. So,
Right.
what content can I create inside of my product so that they will use it? That is
Interesting.
the main thing I want, right? For instance, one thing we're building is we're building the ability for you to talk to an AI, which will help you craft the learning journey for your team and create that into a playlist of book ideas that you can use to create a learning program.
That's
Very
awesome.
simple thing. That's
That's
that's an
awesome.
awesome concept. Would you rather have that and solve your problem or read a, you know, 5,000 word blog article about, how to solve the learning problems for my team?
Interesting.
You'd rather just get in and do it. It's going to be, you're going to have the content in the end to get what you want done,
Hmm.
instead of reading how to do it. So the way I'm thinking of
Interesting.
content now is how can I get the content that my user really, really needs that aligns with my product?
And bake
I,
it into the ability to touch it or feel it or experience the product.
exactly, exactly.
Hmm.
We can go back to shoes. You don't want to read a big blog article on,
No,
what shoes are best. You want a quick list, and then you want to go to a store and try them on.
totally.
So you want to give the content that's, I mean, I hate the word most relevant, but it's the one that's most useful. I
Right.
think that's the thing. It's not relevant, it's just useful.
So like in a shoe example, it could be a little funny message or tip or piece of education on the inside of the tongue of the shoe that you're reading.
Exactly. Or it could be something really, I don't know, let's get really creative. If we had no constraints, instead of giving you an article on what the best shoes are, I'll send you click on something, it will send you one pair of each foot. You get 5 shoes, you try them on, you send 4 back and get the second one. It could be something like that. You gotta use it. People want to touch your content. They want to interact with it. They're tired of reading these 50-page long blog articles,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which describe their whole, like, I hate researching for recipes, for example. Have you
Yeah.
ever researched for a recipe? They tell their life
Yeah.
story before they give you the ingredients.
Yeah. And you're
I
just
just
scrolling down to like the number of units of measure. Give me that. Yeah.
Exactly. I just want the ingredients for this cake. I don't need to know why your grandma did it or,
Yeah.
who invented the recipe. I didn't search who invented this recipe. I searched for
Yeah.
recipe.
Well,
So
and this could be a whole nother topic, but that's where you're trying to, a lot of the content and a lot of the articles are clearly serving the Google gods. They're not serving the customer user
not
experience, right? And so,
Unfortunately, not anymore. Like,
uh,
wouldn't you prefer if you either got the list of ingredients, or better, if you just look at it and say, hey, in one click, I can have all these ingredients shipped to my house, and I can just
interesting,
start baking it,
interesting.
So usability, I think it's going to really trump, quantity of content. So
Okay.
that's what I keep thinking about. How do I get people to use and touch? Good example here from book club. I gotta pitch our
Of
good
course, of
ideas,
course.
which is at events, we do a very simple thing. They go to our booth and they can choose, if they book a meeting with us, they can choose a book of their liking to take home. So they'll have a book, and usually it's a book that's on our platform. It's a book that has to do with leadership training, of soft skills of communication. Like, it's something we already know they're related to that sort of content. They'll
Right.
take home a book and be like, oh wow, you guys got Atomic Habits, you guys got Dare to Lead, right? I love my team to read this. I'm like, take a copy for your team, like, get them interacting, get them touching
That's a
things,
great, that's very interesting, man. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing. That's cool. I have
Hope
two more things for you. The second thing is going to be a request for you to leave a question for my next guest. But the first thing is if we were in a magic fairyland where resource constraint did not exist, but you could bring one thing along with you that you're not doing, or you can radically improve one thing that you're doing now, what are you choosing and why?
no constraints. I definitely would like to get more cats on everything. I'm addicted to cats. I put cats on everything I could,
Not
but
not no constraint, still constraint, but they've opened up a little bit of the budget.
if I could open up a little bit of the budget, to me, if I had more budget, it wouldn't necessarily mean I'm gonna, like, I don't know, I'm gonna spend more in ads or do something or use another
Mhm.
channel. I would have more people that are thought partners in areas I'm weak on. Like, my theory is I work on the things I'm a rock star. I'm good at running ads. I'm good at running automations. That's what I'm good at. I'm good at that technical data boring part. I need other people that have brains and things I'm not that good at. Like, have a product marketer that could partner with me. Have a content manager that could partner with me.
Right.
Have a branding expert that could partner with me. People that complement my ability, because that will get us further. Like, you know,
Yeah,
the actual getting the task done, I can hire contractors and do it, but having like a thought partner beside me, the difference in that is amazing,
that's
because you
smart.
just you just kind of bounce ideas off each other. You can each tell each other, like, your idea is terrible. Let's not do it. Like, let's focus on this one instead.
Yeah.
That idea you had is great. Let's do it.
So you'd
So
invest in more people instead of doubling down on an area or bringing in a new tactical area.
right now, that's what I need. I need another person to help, even if it was just another salesperson that,
Yeah.
be the head of sales would be awesome, you know.
Are you lonely,
Anything.
Pedro? Are you lonely?
I think I'm a bit lonely since my buddy in sales left because I always partnered well with sales. I'm feeling kind of down because he left. But no, but my team's great. I'm gonna see them in 2 weeks in New Orleans, and they're really close. I catch up with them regularly. I'm the
Awesome.
only one in Brazil. The rest of the team's all in the US.
Yeah.
So
And where again are you in Brazil? What city?
Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, wow. On my list.
I tell everyone they should come. It's an amazing place. I'll send you my guide to Rio. I wrote a guide to Rio. Um,
Really?
yeah, it's a guide on Google Docs with a bunch
Send
of.
that. That's awesome. That's
Uh,
so cool. What are you curious about? What do you want to leave as a question for my next guest?
well, I was lucky I read your guide before because I thought of a question,
Okay.
and this is a question can apply to anyone, which I love this question, which is, um, what is a marketing strategy that everyone claimed that it works really well, but it has never worked for you, and why?
That is funny, man.
That's a
I'm
good question to
I'm
ask because
thinking,
I've had different results.
so
You
that's
want to answer
crazy.
it?
Well, it's funny because I'm thinking a whole bunch of things. Like the first one is that it's amazing how we can tell ourselves a story about something that's not true, but the conviction in which we tell it makes it true enough to be accepted in the organization or whatever. But we know deep down that if put on this on the stand and needed to prove results, there'd be nothing there to stand up on. And that
Yeah.
happens so much. So damn, man, that's a good one. I'm gonna get it answered by my next guest, and I'll let you know what they say.
Oh, I do want to. I'm gonna watch their podcast
Do
just to see
you
what they're.
do you
Yeah,
have any resemblance of an answer there?
I could, but I think your
Okay,
next
all
guest
right.
should answer. I
We'll
do
leave
have
it.
my answer, but
We'll leave it for the next group then.
I'll leave it for the next guest. I don't want them, to have a
Right.
an answer.
No answers. Pedro, I wish we could do this for another hour. Really insightful. Love the way you're playing the game, your energy and your passion for it. So thank you very much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. This was really fun. I enjoyed all your questions, and yeah, I always like, to chat with other marketers. I could do this for a long time as well because,
Yeah,
we're marketers, and
totally.
this is not only what I do for a living, this is what I love doing for a living. I'm
That's
lucky
awesome.
that way. So I always have fun doing this.
Good for you. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.